Welcome back, everybody. Today I'm going to be making flan, also known as creme caramel. Now, you guys have requested this video for quite some time, so I decided to film flan today because my family wanted some, and here's how I did it. To start, I'm going to use my blender to make the custard. So in my blender, I'm going to add 3 large eggs. I'm also going to add 1 can or 1 14-ounce can of sweetened condensed milk. I'm also going to be adding 12 ounces or a cup and a half of heavy cream. You could also use 1 can of evaporated milk. That's actually how we grew up making it, my grandmother and my mom. But I'm going to add that right into the blender. And I'm also going to be adding 2 teaspoons of Mexican vanilla extract. You could use the vanilla extract you have on hand. And I'm also going to be adding a 1/4 teaspoon of orange extract. I'd like to say that that is an optional ingredient, but I really think you should try it with the orange extract. It goes quite lovely in this. So I'm going to blend this for about 45 to 60 seconds, and then I'm going to set it aside. Okay, so now for the hardest part of this recipe. And I gotta tell you, I am just a home cook and I don't make flan all the time, and this happens to me every single time I've made flan. So I'm adding 2/3 cup of sugar to a pan. I have it over a medium-low heat, and you'll see it starting to melt on the sides. Basically, I didn't add water. I'm just moving it around. I'm not going to stir it. I want the sugar to basically melt, and it's going to start getting that amber color, so you'll want to move it around and shake it around. You want the sugar to dissolve. Now, you'll notice that it is dissolving, it is getting color. You want to sort of pick it up from the flame and just control, because you don't want to burn it. So at this point, I thought, yay, I have amber colored caramel sauce. Perfect. Well, guess what? When I added it to my little dish, as soon as I added it, you'll want to swirl it around to at least coat the bottom, but I noticed right away it just got hard. Basically that hard candy stage, and that's not what you want. So back to the drawing board, and I think what I did here is I should have let it go a little bit longer. So here I'm using another pan. I'm using a smaller pan, again 2/3 cup of sugar. I have it on a low heat, and you really want to take your time with this. Again, I do not make this caramel sauce very often, so for my beginner cooks out there, do not be discouraged. You're just going to have to try to figure this out. Practice does make perfect, and you could start out with 2/3 cup of sugar and maybe a 1/4 cup of water to dissolve the sugar before it starts to turn the amber color, but I really wanted to do this how my mom and grandmother do it. So here I have my sugar dissolved, melted. It's a beautiful deep amber color. You want to remove it from the heat because if the sugar cooks too long, it'll definitely burn and turn bitter. So I have my caramel sauce exactly where I want it. So now I'm going to add it to my baking dish. Here I have a 9 by 13 baking dish that I've added a smaller baking dish to. This is a 1.5 liter baking dish. I'm going to add my sauce at the bottom of the smaller dish. And by the way, I have a small towel under the baking dish so it doesn't slide around as much. I'm going to spread that out on the bottom. Now this step you will want to work quickly, which is why I like to have my custard mixture already made. I've passed it through a strainer into the baking dish. This will yield a creamier, smoother custard. So now I'm going to make a water bath. I have my smaller baking dish on a towel so it doesn't slide around. I've added around a quart of water, basically 1.5 inches up the sides of the baking dish. I'm going to cover this with aluminum foil, and I'm going to bake it in a preheated oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 55 to 60 minutes, or until the custard is set and still slightly jiggly. Once my flan is done, I'm going to remove it from the oven and remove the smaller baking dish from the water bath and let it set for about 2 to 3 hours. And as you can see, it still jiggles. Now, for best results, you could let it cool on the countertop and place it in the fridge to serve the next day. but my family likes to eat this warm or at room temperature. So after 2.5 hours of cooling on the countertop, I'm going to take a sharp knife and run the blade on the edges to release it from the baking dish. And I'm going to flip it out on another baking dish or platter that has sort of an edge because the sauce will run all over the place. So now for the moment of truth. Here I have my platter, and like I said, you will want to use a platter with an edge. And I am just going to carefully flip this out onto my platter. You guys, if I have to be honest with you, it took me 3 tries to get the caramel sauce right. So don't give up, because once this happens, when it flips out and releases from the baking dish with all of that delicious caramel sauce, you have success and you have accomplished flan. So I am so happy this came out. My family cannot wait to have a piece. The caramel sauce, it's definitely work. It's a labor of love, but once you have success, you know you can do it again. Okay, so first piece goes to my husband. He is eyeing it, and I do want to show you guys. I think because I let my custard mixture set on the counter and sort of settle, it really does give you a creamy, smooth consistency to the flan. There are no air bubbles, and it doesn't really crack. I mean, unless you disturb it, but take a look at this. It has a glassy finish to that caramel sauce and a smooth, creamy custard. I hope you give this recipe a try. I hope you like it, and thanks for watching.